like I said, nobody wants to talk about it, but if you don't set your spouse up or your family, they're going to suffer in your absence if you're a 2-income family, no matter what. Can you hear me well?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep. All right, guys. Welcome back. This is Widowhood. And our title is actually Widowhood 0 stars. Completely sucks. Do not recommend. So I think that was, people were like, I'm looking for Widowhood. There's a whole bunch on those. That ain't the one you want. You want this one.
Yeah.
But I'm Amanda.
I'm Kendra.
And this week we're going to talk about something that I think is not talked about. It's kind of like that ouchy subject that you don't want to talk about, but it's something that we've both had to do. Mm-hmm. It's about finances, because traditional families, I looked it up, 96% of traditional families in the United States are male dominated. The husband is the primary breadwinner. Not that they both don't work. This is not in single family homes. This is in traditional homes. Mm-hmm. There is a primary breadwinner and then typically a secondary. I was the secondary one because the last 3 years I was going back to school.
Right.
And I was doing the aesthetic nursing and all that. So Mike and I were under the, understanding that he was going to be working and I was going to be working but making less money because I was in school.
Right.
So it's a shitty subject. I know and a lot of people get real touchy when you talk about your finances, but I'm going to be real black and white where we were at. So that's talking about finances.
Let's talk about it.
All right.
We had also, John and I had always both worked. We worked opposite shifts of each other, but we were definitely a 2-income family. And I think most people are these days. It's very difficult to survive off one income. But whenever John passed, I had already started looking into going back to work full-time because I had gotten a job here part-time at the hospital. And I was already looking into asking my manager, could I go to full-time? And I think I mentioned in the earlier podcast that it just worked out for us that because my kids could get John's Social Security, I did not have to go back full-time. But I know that's a reality for a lot of families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we, because we didn't have anything in writing, life insurance, estate planning, it was a huge, oh shit moment. But it was even a couple weeks after he died where I was like, oh my God, what, I'm going to have to get I always say a for real big girl job. No more training and, I like always going back to school. So I typically did continuing ed and classes. So I was like, I got to make, and, again, we're not even at 5 months with Mike and I, but I am right now in the process of having to make huge financial decisions that I don't feel equipped for. I don't feel like I'm...
Well, you don't have Mike to bounce things off
yes.
of because you probably always talk to each other
yes.
about what are we going to do next.
Yeah. And we always talked about, if I ever was going to spend, more than a couple $100, I'd be like, hey, are you good? I'm going to buy this or do this, or I'm going to plan this just to make sure, because we had a joint checking account. Mm-hmm. We had joint savings. We, commingled finances.
Right.
So
we would always check in with each other kind of every week. This is what we have coming out, just so you know, this is what we have coming up.
So for me, the big reality check was, number one, I didn't have his paycheck coming in anymore. Right. So his company was great. That stopped about a month after he died. They paid me they paid him, he had vacation and stuff, through the month of April. So that paycheck I did not have as a cushion. Luckily, Mike, he always said we needed 6 months in the bank, 6 months of our bills. As long as we have that in the bank, we were okay. So we did have that. But again, I'm almost at month 5. So I do work, but my business is, now the gym and medical aesthetics, so it's hot and cold. I don't have that luxury of having that. I need to have a steady paycheck.
It's not a finite number
no,
every month.
No. So I can't budget. I can't plan. And, I've got to make smart, money moves, as you would say. But for me, it's made me be more financially aware, now. But with the financial aspect too comes if you ever come into my house, when you walk in on the left-hand side, this is every home we've ever had, it's pictures. I like pictures of
whole picture wall at your house.
Whole picture wall.
Yeah.
Every house I've ever lived in, I have it. It's all the things that we have done over the last, for the most part, I would say 10 years. A couple years ago, we started saying, I don't want to just your kid wants a Barbie house, yay, they're going to play with that. Let's give our kids experiences for holidays and gifts over things.
Yeah, I like that.
So we did a lot of things. So my house is full of pictures of things we did. So on top of mourning my husband, the guy bounced everything off of my person, I'm looking at a life that doesn't look like those pictures anymore, because I can't afford. I mean, him and my daughter would go do stuff. They would go to Dave and Buster's, Stars and Strikes twice a week, and if you go there, it's a couple $100. I have to be smarter. I can't go out and do that. I have to budget and plan, and
you have to explain that to her too.
Yes, and I have to
8.
explain that, and when she's like, why can't we just go to Claire's? It's Tuesday afternoon and give me I would give her a budget and she'll just roll over it. She doesn't understand that. We can't do that. I got to be smart. And I try to explain it, but it doesn't. So not only am I financially making decisions that I just feel like I'm not ready for, or I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough business sense. I have to, I have an 8-year-old that's, bummed out that she can't do all these things. So I'm mourning a future that I anticipated, and trying to be realistic, and trying to be financially smart, and bearing all that on my shoulders as the primary breadwinner now in our house.
Right.
So
I remember I told you that when John passed, he had several projects going on in the construction that we had, and trying to figure out where that was and what stage it was in. And I kept thinking to myself, is this what John would want me to do? Am I making the right decision? Because I was a nurse. I had no idea about construction. And ultimately what I had to do was, I had 2 full house projects that were going on that I stopped construction on, because I couldn't justify the money going into it for what the return was going to be. And I don't know if that was the right answer, but you get to a point where you have to start living not in John's shadow or not Mike's shadow, but this is your life now, and you have to make the decisions that make the most sense to you. So,
and I see that, and it's hard. I always think, what would Mike do, or what would Mike want me? I need to buy a new car, and I will be totally honest with you. I don't know if I've ever bought a car. I know I've never bought a car on my own, but Mike, my husband, and I know John did this too, would research. I mean, he's been researching cars for 3 months prior to him passing away, and I was like, our car's paid off. It's having some issues. Let's trade it in. This has been whenever, no rush, whenever.
Right.
And he's been researching cars, and pages of research on cars, and I'm just like, that one's pretty, I'll take it. I don't know anything about cars.
John was the same way. He would, if I said I liked a certain car, he would say, well, this is what the Blue Book value is on it, and this is what they're known for. And he would just go in, and by the time it was over, he'd bring me back 4 different options. We could do this one, and, I'd never bought a car by myself.
Mm-hmm.
We got married when I was 21. Everything that we had was in both of our names, and we decided things together, but I definitely deferred to his opinion about stuff like cars. And I'll tell you one thing that I noticed was as soon as he was gone, I was terrified I was going to be on the side of the road with a car that was broken down, and I wouldn't know what to do because I will be honest, I didn't even know how to change a tire.
I don't either.
And so that was like one of my first thoughts was I have to have something that's really reliable so that I'm not going to get stuck somewhere. And I ended up probably about a year and a half after John died, I needed to get a new car because I said in the other podcast, I totaled our SUV that we had.
And you were on the side of the road.
On the side of the road. I totaled that. And so I started looking on the computer and saw what I liked, and I went that day, and I was scared because I thought I don't want to get had because I'm a female by myself. But and my brother-in-law could have gone with me, or I'm sure I could have gotten a friend to go with me, but I just felt like I needed to do it by myself.
Good for you.
And that day I went and walked in, and I thought to myself, you have to act like you belong here, and even though you don't know what you're talking about. And I bought my car 2 years ago, and I'm happy with it.
Is that a car, I'm just curious, because I don't even know this, that John would have picked out or wanted you to get, or was that just like, nope, this is what I want?
No, it was just what I wanted.
Okay. Because I find myself, like, I know the car. There are 2 cars that Mike wanted me to get. And I have brothers. So my brother is now emailing me and texting me research. And I'll be like, what about this? And he, like, diverts me right back to those 2 that Mike had basically narrowed it down for me. So I'm at that place where I'm terrified. I don't know when I'm going to be able to, like, go and do it. So I just don't know what to do. And I don't want to be on the side of the road.
Right.
I don't want, I can just hear my 8-year-old, saying, see, Mama, told you should have got, because it's, and I don't even know who I would call either. Like, who do you call? My aunt and uncle have been so awesome. They have, like, just stepped in, like, grandparents and parents, and, like, so much for me. I could call him and he'd be in another state and he would come because they're just that people. This is my dad's brother, and it's just so amazing. But you feel bad doing that, and it's like, so this week alone, I have the car thing is like just lingering out here. I have to get that done, but business, I have some business decisions I got to make. I have other, like, financial decisions I have to make. I've just decided I want to keep my house. I love it. We're going to stay there. So now it's like you got to bust your ass and work, Amanda. So you got to figure it out. And I know I can do that, but it's like I'm still mourning those pictures. And it's like I said, nobody wants to talk about it, but if you don't set your spouse up or your family, they're going to suffer in your absence if you're a 2-income family, no matter what. My girls tell me all the time, Mom, if this was you, Dad would still be in a puddle in the bathroom in his own tears. So you're doing okay. But it's just, like, I know it's a touchy subject, but, like, the life insurance, having a financial advisor. I have all of those things now, but I didn't have, we didn't have that then. We had plans to do it, but we kept putting it off. But as far as fixing everything and taking care of the cars, I literally just deferred to Mike and was like, I want it in black. And he would be like,
I told John I want black. I don't care.
I don't. That's what I said. I don't care. I'm like, black it out.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. I picked out a car one time. Within a month, I regretted it. I hated the car. And Mike was like, I told you. So I never did it again. Never.
I know when you were talking about a financial planner, probably a year and a half after John passed, I decided that I needed to move. And this may be different for you than it is for me, but the home that we bought here at the beach, it was John's style. John had a very definitive style, and he usually decorated most of our homes. I didn't have a big opinion, and he was an art teacher, and he bought.
It was cool. I will say that. And all that stuff was cool.
It was. He loved old movies, and so a lot of it looked like old movie sets, and he painted it hot pink and black, and it was really cool. But when he was gone, I looked around, and it was all I could see was he had picked these things, and I loved it. But it was hard for me to live there without him because it was so much him, you know. And so I started thinking, well, maybe I should. And I wanted to live closer to my family, too, and they were a little further ways down the beach. So a house came open that was available, and I went by myself and looked at it. And this is where I ended up. I prayed, and I said, if this isn't a good move for me, make everything block its way, you know. But if this is the house that I'm supposed to be in, you're going to have to help me because I've never done this before. Yeah. And it fell right into place, and it needed a lot of work. And John had always done all the work before. But what I did as far as financial planner, I did call a financial planner. I talked to them about the benefits of selling the home that we had, and I was actually downsizing a little bit. So he talked me through that, and that was really beneficial for me because I didn't have any idea. You know, the home that we bought here, we didn't plan to sell. So I didn't know if I needed to stay there longer or if it was okay for me to go ahead and sell. Would it hurt me financially to get rid of it? And it worked out that it was a better move for me to sell the house. And I love my house now. It's completely different. Do I think that John would like it? No. I don't think that he would like it. It doesn't look like anything we ever lived in before. I had to make some decisions on my own, and it's very muted. It's all light blue, very calm. It's mine, you know. And my kids even said the other day they were really glad that we ended up doing that they felt like it was sort of a clean start where they didn't look around and see everything that it was almost like I guess when you look around and see things that other people pick or you see things that are of them, it's a comfort for some people, but in our situation, it was a reminder of what we were missing. Yeah. And so it wasn't a comfort for me. And so I think our kids are really happy here now. So.
Yeah, I think there's like a fine line between it being a shrine to your spouse and I even said to one of my friends, I'm like, does this house look like a shrine to Mike? Like, I mean, this is how I had it decorated. The benefit of we had only lived in this house for 3 weeks before Mike died. So our other house that we lived in for 7 years, Mike, it was full of memories. This house, we don't have a lot.
Right.
This house, only being there in a couple of weeks, it feels like a fresh start. But I had all those pictures up. That was like, they're like the sticky ones that you get. So they were easy. You just stick them up and move them. And I actually don't like where they're placed because Mike helped me, but I just haven't had the like move them to make them like more symmetrical because he basically was just sticking them up there like, you know, because he didn't want to be doing it anyway, where I couldn't reach. But I think there's a fine line of that, of like, is it a shrine and is it, but I learned.
But you guys always had pictures up of,
yes,
of your family.
Always. And I let Mike pick a paint color once. And again, and not just me, both of us within like 3 months. He says it was gray. It was not. It looked like a purpley blue. And I was like, how do you feel about this color? And he's like, I don't like it. And I was like, good, because I've already gone. You're done. So I don't let him. And even when you pick out stuff, he'd be like, I'm so bored. Just pick it, you know. So I just
I think I was that way. I didn't care one way or the other.
As long as something's comfortable and I like what I like. Like, I like black. I like beachy colors. Our other house was beachy, and that's what Mike wanted. This house is more like kind of muted colors, but I have like a lot of like, you know, like old like anatomy, cool like I like skulls. I like black stuff. Mike did too, so it works. And if he
definitely your
didn't
style.
like it, he learned to not say anything. But he really kind of no say anymore. But yeah, the house is definitely much more me because we were in the process of moving in. So I know the comforter on my bed he would hate.
Yeah.
I don't care. I like that. But as far as like the big ones, like I knew he would be like, go get life insurance. I knew he was like, you need to do this because he kept saying to me, we need to schedule a time to do this. And I'd be like, I've got to study. I've got to do this. I've got to work. And so I think he would be proud of me for that. But yeah, my house is definitely me. Hudson's room is her. Morgan's room is like, I mean, Morgan's, so we all have our own style. And I normally would be like, everything's got to coordinate. But like when when this happened, I just was like, I don't care. You want pink walls, pink wall it up. Like
Yeah.
I just didn't care enough. And it's like, if that little thing will make your kids happy, let it. Hudson wanted to put all these pictures of Mike up, and I was like, I mean, I cried putting them up. And but she loves it, and she loves her room, and so I've got to be okay with it.
Yeah.
And you know,
Our family never had pictures up in
Yeah.
our homes ever. Like, we didn't have like your wedding portrait or like a family portrait up. We just never did. And we really didn't have like candid pictures up either.
yeah.
Because John was an art teacher, and my son Oliver paints. We had a lot of paintings
Your
up
house
that they
was
had done.
cool. I like all that stuff was cool. Yeah, it was a lot of artwork.
So what we've kind of ended up doing is all of my kids have their own room the way they want it, and they all basically have a picture that John painted in there.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think that's the reminder for them, but we were never a picture family. So it doesn't seem odd that we don't have things up. I know my mom's got pictures of my dad up everywhere, but
My mom does too.
that was how they were before.
Yeah, that's
you
how I
know.
grew up too. That we did pictures,
Yeah.
and like because we had a big family, we didn't have. I mean, we had experiences, but not like I take my kids on. Like, I mean, So that's what we have hanging. So no, I get that. Like, and that's it's. I feel like to each his own. I don't feel like there's any right or wrong answer. It's just like when you're making these decisions, you're like tiptoeing, and like I'm at the place now where I have a really good business partner, and she's much smarter than I am, and I trust her judgment. So I have that benefit, but it's just with like the other things, like I kind of like I said, my feet are to the fire where I got to make a decision, and I tell everyone else, you might fail, you might fly, you never know, but it's going to be one or the other. So the option. So I mean, I might make a bad decision on a car, and have to trade it in a year. I don't know.
Right.
I might make a bad decision business wise, but I've got to make it, and I can do like you said, pray about it, and I even have done that with like, Lord, if it's meant to be, let it be easy on me.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
if it's more stress, then and same with our house now, we're looking at houses for the last year. Some of them were just the hoops you got to jump
Yeah.
through. You're like, come on, and so they're not meant to be.
Right. I felt like I had made a good decision because everything went
Lined
smooth.
up.
I mean, I didn't need help. I could do it by myself.
Yeah.
And it's like the more, it's been almost 4 years for me. The more experiences that happen for me like that, the more I feel like, okay, I'm going to be okay. This isn't how I wanted things to go.
Yeah.
But I think John would be proud of me.
Agreed. Totally be
Because,
proud of you. Yes.
I've bought a car, I bought a house. I've had people come work on my house. I like what they've done. There's so many things that you can do that you just haven't done before.
Yeah.
It's not that
Agreed.
you can't do it. I think the thing that I miss more is having him to bounce things off of, like about everyday stuff, because we checked in with each other about everything, and with the kids. I've got 3 teenagers right now, and before we could talk and have a conversation, and he and I would like get a game plan. This is where we stand. This is what we're going to say. And, now it's
You're
mom.
outnumbered.
Yeah. Mom, are we going to do this or not?
Yep.
And I miss not being able to say, do you think that's a good idea if we let them go or no?
Kind of along that, what do you think about the kids? Like, again, I'm at 5 months, and I have your youngest was 11, right? Okay, so Hudson's just turned 8, and she's definitely feeling the lack of his presence and his influence in things.
Right.
And he's a typical girl dad. Sheltered them. Mom said you can't have Oreos. I'm gonna sneak you. So she's missing that. So I feel like she's rebelling a little bit. And I want to be hard on her because I am always a little bit more strict than Mike was, but I can't replace Mike. So there's nothing I can do. I can't replace those experiences. I can do some of those things, and some of them are really stepping outside of my comfort zone. Right. Like, I'm just not, I don't want to do it, but I'll do that. But I can't be him. I can't pretend like I'm him and constantly be, what Hudson needs. So I've got to figure out, and I feel like I'm outnumbered. Like Hudson, will come at me with something, and normally I'd be like, Mike, same thing. We were in agreement on this. Let's do this, and he would agree, And now I feel like I don't have the 2 against 1 anymore.
Right, exactly. I felt like before, if this is a bad decision, I share this bad decision with him. If this is fantastic, then we both get the credit for it. But if this blows up, then your dad and I decided. And it made me feel like I was a little more powerful. But now it's on me.
Yeah.
So
and I'm trying to learn that, and like you said, give yourself some grace. But I do think we've gotten some, because we played some TikToks and like that on social media, some questions, and one of them was, how do you even begin to make financial decisions? And so for me, I think you need to find someone that you trust. Number one, that you can bounce an idea off. And I've said things to you, and we've bounced ideas off of each other. So find someone that you trust that you can bounce ideas off of. And social media is good and bad. The good of it is that I need this in search of, and people will send you links and all that stuff. So you can, I've called people, and you can get a vibe from somebody around the phone. So the lady that did our life insurance, her name is Bonnie Senior. I'm going to have her on. She didn't pressure me into this. She said, listen, I know you guys, because I had talked to her, and she was like, this is what you need, I think, in my 30 years of experience. Let me draw it up. Here's the paperwork. And I was like, I just trusted her. And I felt good about it, and I trusted her. The same with, the financial planner. This was the guy, Mike, and I had so easy, been very helpful, really nice guy, has really guided me. You need to find that someone. And if you don't have someone, hop on social media.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at the people that come to you for aesthetic nursing, for personal training.
Yeah.
That's your field. You can't be I think I felt like, I should know everything. I can't know everything.
Right.
Everybody's their own expert. And I think you have to seek out people that you respect, that have shown you success in their field, and then go from there and make the best choice you can.
Yeah. And I think it's a good point to say, you're not making decisions that that Mike or your spouse would make. You're making decisions for you. And that's what it's really hard to, like, it sounds like a harsh word, but it's like sever that relationship because you were together so long. But if I make a bad decision, it's my bad decision. If I make a good decision, it's mine. And the good thing about my husband was he always, even if they were our good decisions, he made it feel like you did a good job, babe. And if it was a bad decision, he was like, hey, that's on me. I'll fix it, or I'll take care of it. I don't have that safety net.
Yeah. John always said, what's worst case scenario?
Yep.
And he said, as long as we know the worst case scenario together, anything better than that, we're good.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just hard to walk through that by yourself and think, oh, what's the worst case scenario for me?
Yeah. We'll be homeless on on the street pushing a grocery cart. Like, come on, man. Like, there's a lot that I see it all that could go wrong.
Yeah.
But, I know ultimately, I make a joke about it, listen, if I got to end up on a pole, I got to end up on a pole. But, no one's paying to see that. But I'm just saying, like, I'll do whatever I got to do. I have enough educational background that I could go back and work traditional healthcare. But I mean, we both of us could. I don't want to, but I could.
Right.
But for me, like that, and like I said, at like 3 and 4 months, that was like my realization was like, oh shit, I got to make decisions about money. Like, we're using up this money that we had saved. I've got to start investing or making money and being profitable and budgeting and all these things that I just kind of took for granted that Mike did for the last 10 years, because I was the more like, let's buy this. And he was like, well, more like planning it out and figuring it out.
Yeah.
So I think, that's something that really quickly, again, you've got to learn, because you're not going to have the opportunity. If you go a year and are just burning through whatever you have saved, or it's too long. You've got to get that quick.
Right.
And we did have a good network. We had a big network of people that we both knew in his company, and my aunt and uncle. Like they have been great, and my brother's been real helpful about, that's probably not a good decision. Or Amanda, Mike is right, that car is, you don't get that car. So I still want the car, by the way. But, I'm not going to get the car because, there was a specific car that I wanted, and he was like, no, absolutely not. So
I don't think I picked what John would have picked for me, but
I
ended up thinking I need a truck because John drove a truck.
Oh my gosh,
and there was a lot of stuff
that
I needed a truck for.
Moving.
And I like smaller cars. And it ended up that I bought a truck, and it's worked out great. I've used it every week. I needed it. I still can't park it. Yeah, I'm horrible at parking it, so I park at the very end. But
what about people that back in, like the big cars where they're backing
showing
in?
off.
And I'm like,
that's just showing off.
I have 360 cameras on my car, and I have never backed into a space ever.
I don't either.
I don't even like. I'm like, what is your?
That's just people that want attention.
Just extra. You're just being extra for backing in.
Right.
But that's another thing that Mike did all the time was drive me. Like yesterday, the weather was really bad, and I had to drive home in that. And Morgan's like, oh, Mike would have came and picked us up. And he would have. I'd have left my car here, and he'd have came and picked me up, because I don't drive. I hate driving in the rain, the dark.
Right.
I hate backing in.
I felt that way.
And I have the biggest car like they make. I got the biggest car.
I felt that way all this weekend because it rained so much, and I had to take the kids to a lot of places. And I had this feeling like I was so tense. I was like, what is wrong with me this weekend? And it was because I was driving in the rain. It was dark. I don't think that I'll ever like it. I do it, but John was the same way. I mean, if it rained too much or if it ever snowed, he took me to work.
Yep. Oh, my gosh, yeah. Mike would, drive me. Anytime I would go out with my girlfriends, like, I never had to Uber. Like, and not that we were getting wasted, but he would drive me and come back and get me, always, no matter where. It could be 30, 40 minutes from where he could
I think that's how John and Mike met.
Yeah.
We went out to dinner one night, and they came and met us there, and that's when they met.
I remember that, yep. Yeah. So that's just something I think that is really important, and I think it's under talked about because nobody wants to talk about somebody's finances.
It's private, but you have to have help with it.
You still, you've got to find someone that you can help. Other than having like the good people, I do think, and for us, this is therapy, right? I mean,
I think so. Yeah.
But therapy is another thing. Like you gotta kind of gauge where your kids are and decide if they need therapy. Like my oldest daughter, this makes me laugh every time, but so we were all doing therapy every single week. Okay. Therapy's not cheap.
No, it's not.
So I was listening in on my oldest daughter in therapy, and I could hear like, and I could hear her like she was doing virtual, which is terrible. Don't do that anyway. And I could hear her like doing stuff, like she's cleaning out her makeup drawers, and I was like,
So the therapist was basically carrying the conversation.
yes. And so I said, hey, how are you feeling about therapy? And she said, Mom, I'm done. I say the same shit every week. Like, can I be good? And I was like, okay, yeah, because it's like $90 a session. So I was like, okay, yeah. My youngest is like every other, and now we're down to like once a month. And I'm kind of at the place where it's like, this is kind of therapy for me. And I have relived that day of Mike dying and the 2 weeks prior and the 2 weeks after so many times in my head. I can't keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember so much of it because I was in that fog. And that I got it. And I don't know that I've even done this yet, but at least I say this every single day. Tomorrow, I'm going to take one step towards what new Amanda looks like. Because when I look at myself, I don't see what I'm used to seeing. This is not who I am. Like, it's not this, I just don't feel like that person. And I failed. I mean, most days I'm like I like to stay in my little pocket, but that's trying to build that. And I know a lot of women have come on our TikTok and Facebook with these stories of like grief and sadness. And yeah, like it's heavy sometimes, but I know, and I know you do, where Mike is. Like, I always laugh that Mike would not want me to date ever again. And he would be like, I will literally haunt you. But he would want me to be happy. And he would want me to do all the things that I'm doing. And with that being said, I want to be very transparent that marriage is tough. And the last couple of years for us were kind of tough. We had some good months and some bad ones. And so we were in therapy as well. Right. And but I will say we just celebrated in February our 17-year anniversary, and it was probably the best weekend that I had. And it's like my last really vivid memory with Mike that was so, like, I can't think of one negative thing like that weekend that annoyed me or I got, it was just the best. So I don't want to make any false claims. Like, we were together 23 years. It was all great. No, we went through hell and high water so many times. Yeah. And we were thrown a lot of curveballs, and we both had children. We were both in relationships before. So we both had, issues in childhood. We brought our own trauma and bullshit in. So, my dad used to always say, broken people break people. So first time when we fought, that's what we did. We broke each other. That's what we went to. So we had to learn how to be married and learn how to be like that. But it's now I have to learn how to be
You have to learn
the best version of me and the mom. And I can't ever be dad. I'm never going to replace him. And I want my kids to love him and move on. But I don't even like that word move on. I don't even know what the word I'm looking for, but I need to make a step towards.
I think it's move forward.
Yeah, move forward. Because move on sounds like, okay, he's gone, but I don't feel like that. I mean, Hudson said something the other night, and I had to go sit in my bathroom. I was like, it got me.
I think when John passed away and I started going to counseling, I was really fortunate that I found a counselor who had lost his wife and had dealt with the same issues. And the first few sessions we talked about John, and we talked about what I missed and the grief of it. And then I told him, I said, I'm overwhelmed. I said, I have to be able to know, what do I do next? I have to move forward, because I accepted that he was gone. I didn't like it, but I was 48. I couldn't just sit still for the next year until I pass away. I hope that I live a long life, and So my therapy started taking more of a turn. What do you want to do? What do you want your life to look like? How do you want your kids to relate to you? And how do you want to parent? Because you and John did this well together, and you can do this well by yourself too.
Yeah.
So
Are you still in therapy?
I am, but
Yeah.
I don't go often
Yeah.
anymore. I maybe check in every couple months because I
Yeah.
did virtual. I used to go every week,
Mm-hmm.
and that was what I needed at the time. And then as I got busier and I felt like I was handling things better, then I moved to a month.
Yeah.
And
that's where I'm
now
at.
we just check in. As far as my kids, they've all gone at different times. They've stopped going. They've gone back.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like we said before, grief isn't linear. And not necessarily grief, but just your life is not linear. How you handle things changes from day to day. I've had kids go back. I've had kids say, I don't think I want to go anymore.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest doesn't go.
Yeah.
She's very quiet, and I think it would bother her more to have to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And we decided we weren't going to do that. But I don't think it's something that could hurt anybody. I know people have different views about therapy, but I never was sorry for going, because every time I got off the phone with my therapist, I felt like, okay, I can do this week.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do this week. And a lot of it was him hearing how I felt. Plus, you need to be able to have somebody that you can say anything in front of.
Yep. Agreed.
No judgment.
Mm-hmm.
My therapist didn't know me. He didn't know John. He didn't have a vested interest in swaying me one way or the other. So he gave me a very unbiased opinion about everything. I talked to him about, when I needed to sell something that we had, or should I sell this, or should I keep doing this? And he'd say, what do you want to do? John isn't here, so you have to decide.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody is different. Someone asked me on social media, what about his clothes and his closet and all that stuff? And it's like, for me, all my stuff's still in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's all, for the most part. I've given like I told my brother to come look through Mike's shoes. He took one pair.
Mm-hmm.
Mike had like 200 some pair of shoes. I'm like, thanks, that was a big help. But I mean, I've given some stuff away to people, but I'm not there yet. I think for me, I'm not prepared to see that closet empty, or what I do is like go through like his drawers, and maybe we'll take out some stuff and then put some of my stuff in and just put it in a box, and my uncle
Mm-hmm.
will take it. But I think that's going to be a gradual thing for me.
I think it was for me.
I don't think it's going to be like,
I think I
we're
kept
cleaning out.
most everything until a year and a half later when I moved.
When you moved, yeah.
Because when I moved and I downsized, I was like, I have to make some decisions here. I have to, so I kept the things of mine that were my favorites.
Yeah.
And my kids all have something of John's
Mm-hmm.
that's their favorite, and but that's not specific to John. I've never been a saver. I've never been like a hoarder type. I don't have tons of pictures from when my kids were 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I never have been that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see how, if you're a person that things that are very sentimental to you, you would hang on to a lot of stuff. My mom has held on to a lot more stuff than I would hold on to. But that's the kind of person she is. I'm not. I want things to have a place, and I don't want to keep a lot of stuff I'm not using.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was not hard for me to say, okay, this is my favorite. I'm keeping this.
Yeah, no, I don't like to keep a lot of stuff either, so I like clean. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll get there, and I'm sure,
But
like...
there was times, truly, Amanda, whenever I'd go to get rid of something, I'd be like, God, John would be pissed with me for this.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
He would be so mad.
Yeah.
He paid $200 for this. He would be livid.
Mike had projects, like, we like guns. I don't think it's a
Mm-hmm.
big secret that we are gun people, but... So he had, like I don't even know what this is, but, like, where people would, like, he would buy I don't know, like stock model guns. My brother's going to shoot me for this because he's like, you should know this. Stock guns, and then they would like modify them and
Yeah.
put all these cool things on them. And he would give me these as gifts, and they were like the greatest gifts. And I'm like, okay, put it in safe. But he had like all these open projects, not all these, a couple. Things with the gym that he was having done, and I just was like, I mean, I would just say, hey, listen, I'll pay you for your time, but that's not something important to me.
Right.
It's not something I want to put more money into right now. So, like,
That happened with me with John too, because he was very into cars, and whenever he passed away, I got contact from 3 different people. John's got this car in my shop, and we're changing out this body onto this frame, and I didn't even know what they were talking about. So I had to rely on them to, tell me this is what this car's worth. You're going to lose money if you sell it this way, and I did lose some. I mean, but what was I going to do with 3 project cars?
Well, you got to look at the value. Is that going to bring any value to my life right now? And that's kind of what I've broken down. Like, somebody wants me to go somewhere. Someone calls me, like, if that's going to bring value, then I'm going to go do it. If it's not, I'm not. I don't really care that much about this modded out AR. I just don't really care that much about it. And I have plenty. So I'm like, I'm good. But, if I thought it was something like, the girls would want one day, or if he was building something for, Hudson, or I would finish it. But as far as that, I was just like, yeah, I'm not. Another thing I had to, and I'm sure everybody has this, when you're, Mike died, very quickly, and it was, people reached out to me, and Mike promised me this or told me this. Did you have any of that?
Not right offhand that I can think of.
Okay.
No, not right offhand.
Yeah, I had a guy reach out to me from Ohio. I probably could say his name, but I'm not going to. Anyway, he said that Mike had promised him these 3 guns and $10,000, and he had it like in a text that he shot me a picture of the text. But it didn't show Mike's name. It just said Mike, and then it said this text. And I was like, and it was like a week after Mike died, and I was just like, bro.
Yeah.
I know what I said to him. I'm not going to repeat it. But yeah, I was not, don't ever contact me again.
Yeah. Well,
So-
again, that goes back to that's what maybe Mike had planned.
And I don't really think that would be Mike. The guns that he had promised him are guns that I know Mike would not part with. So I think it was kind of fake. But the guy was a friend of Mike's, but he was a friend of Mike's from like 20-some years ago, even before, when we were first dating.
Yeah.
So Mike hadn't even talked to him in like 10 years. The text was literally, he said, from like 2013 or something. I mean, it was just like 11 years old or 10 years old. I was like, dude, no. Like, so I had a couple people on Facebook ask me about stuff, and I was just like, not doing that. But what about, I know we talked about this, and we'll touch more on kids, but services. You guys just did the one, you guys didn't do any service, right? I've gotten a lot of people asking me about doing a service in Ohio, which I said it financially doesn't make sense for me, and I just can't do it, and I'm not going to put my kids through all that again. Have you guys had any
No, we just talked.
pushback?
I had people message me and say, when is John's service, or did you, and I would just respond, we decided not to have one. My kids and me do things that are benefiting us.
Yeah.
And I was fine with that. I know it's traditional for somebody to have a service, but at the time, my kids were 11, 13, and 16. And
it's a lot to put your kids through, and it's all a bunch of strangers that your kids are being around.
They've never met.
Yeah, I know. We had a lot.
I did have, I think, a very hard day for me. This was probably a year ago. I had an old friend of John's reach out to me, and he said, where is John? I need to go visit him. And, John was cremated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I had John cremated. I have his ashes.
Yeah.
And I said, did you need to talk? And he was like, no, I wanted to go visit him. And it was a bad day for me. Like,
Did you feel guilty about cremating him? Did you
No,
feel...
I was mad. I was mad that he...
you rarely say that, so that's why I like that.
And if you're watching, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. She actually does get mad. God forbid.
It made me mad that he just responded, gotcha.
Yeah.
Dick. You have no idea what it's like to bring home a person in a box.
Yeah.
And, what I did, my kids all had a necklace made. We all have a necklace with John's ashes in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I keep him in our home.
Yeah.
And the way he texted me, it was as if he was disappointed in me that there wasn't a place for him to go to talk to John.
Yeah.
And, you're not going to make people happy.
No.
Everybody's not going to be happy with your decisions.
No.
And I was like, well.
And again, I think that goes back to what was his intention, and maybe, meeting him, or responding with, his intention, he seemed kind of shitty, And again, you're not going to make everyone happy. So I did what made me happy and my kids happy, and I know that Mike would have been, Mike was honored the way that I felt was good. And the same, he's cremated. He's in my home, and he's on, like a shelf, I guess, by the TV. I don't know. But the kids have pictures, and Hudson has made this little weird blue jay in a nest thing. It's, if you ever come to my house, it looks, I don't know what it is, but anyway, it's sitting there. But the kids have necklaces. I had made a little thing for his son, and a little thing of ashes, got it for his sister. Other than that, that's where it's at. And I don't know either. Like, I'm always like, do you just, and
Well, I think there's other ways to honor them besides a formal service.
Yeah.
And one thing that we did, because John was an art teacher, every year at my kids' school for the last 4 years, I've given a scholarship in his honor.
Yep.
In his name, it's the John Bird Scholarship. They don't have to go to art school. They can go to whatever kind of school they want to go to. But every year I get up and I tell about John. I tell who he was, because the people that go to their school now don't know him.
Yeah.
He was the art teacher there. So the ones that were there that got to be taught by him, they're not there anymore. So I go back over the story of who John was and what was important to him. So my family remembers him every year doing that, and it's difficult. This was the 4th time this year. It was horrible. It's all I can do. I don't like to cry in front of people. It's all I can do to not cry when I give that speech. Mm-hmm. And I'll do that every year. As long as my kids are in school, I'll keep doing that, because education was important to John. Mm-hmm. And helping people was important to John. So by doing that, I feel like I am honoring him. And, there's just a lot of different ways that my kids all have a sticker. John used to paint, and he had this little cartoon bird that he would always paint, because our last name was Bird. Mm-hmm. But he always painted this bird, and the bird smoking a cigarette. And every painting that he ever did, if you look somewhere, there's a bird with a cigarette in his mouth. John didn't smoke.
Yeah,
I don't know what the point was, but
it's funny.
But my kids all have that sticker. My son's got it on his truck.
Yeah.
He's not forgotten to us. It's just our family's more private, and my kids will talk about him, but it'll usually be like in a joke, because Dad would do this. It's like we don't have these long, drawn-out discussions necessarily, but he's always brought up, or we laugh at something he would do, or my kids will imitate him, because He was funny.
Yeah, we do that
So
too.
I think the service is, I know it's comforting for other people, but it was not going to be a comfort
Oh, it was
to me.
a shit show for me.
Yeah.
That was so hard for me because every person that comes in wants to tell you their story. So what? And my therapist suggested this. I think it was her. I can't remember. To have like little cards where people can
That
write
was
a
great.
memory, because then they're not going to tell you, and then you sit there and cry with a total stranger, especially if you're like me, not a hugger.
Yeah.
Or just the thought of even hugging someone, and these people are not hugging. It's like that embrace where it's, you're like.
I loved that you did that.
And I thought that was,
I thought it was
then
a
I
great
could
idea.
read them. I have not gone through them, but I'm sure someday I will.
Yeah.
And I'll, look at that and smile. But
Or you can read one or two when
yeah.
you're having a good day and move on.
I haven't got to that point where like I'm like, this is a good day. I can do this. Like I still go to bed at night and be like, okay, we did it. We got through today. Everybody's alive. Everybody's fed, and everybody is, well, those are pretty much the only two I can guarantee, because like, Hudson is we're still go through that mad stage a lot where like, I'll be like, damn it, Mike, like this broke or this needs done or, this storm. So I'm still in that phase, which I hope I get through. And it's hard. And even like I said, like, because I've got these big kind of financial things in the next couple of weeks, I've got to make decisions, which I'm going to, and I'm fine with it. And it's just, I miss my person.
Yeah.
And I don't think that ever goes away. So people that keep asking me, when does it let up? When do you not feel like this? Well, I didn't wake up one day and go, hey, let's do a podcast.
Yeah.
I was in therapy. You and I had talked about it. You had been there for me from day one. And I think I told you this, but I was like, I should have met you where you were after John died. I know you're private. I know who you are. I know what you needed.
But I told you no.
I know.
I would have told you no.
But I gave you what I needed, not what you needed at the time. Like I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't want to talk. Text me is fine. I remember we went to the hospital. I remember we prayed, and that was a display for me. That wasn't like, I felt like you were private, and that I don't know if that was something that you would have. I think it's something John would have for sure done, and Mike would have done, but I don't know if that was what you needed. So I always felt bad.
I had texted him and I said, we're going to be outside of your hospital room praying because we couldn't go in. Remember, nobody could go in
the
and
parking
see
lot.
him.
Yep.
So I had texted him and said, we're going to be outside praying for you, and just so you know, we're here.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. So I loved that y'all did that.
Okay. Because I just feel bad, and I think that's why I wanted to do this, because I think we are very different, but a lot alike.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to find commonalities in these groups of other widows or widowers. I know men that, and it's like, it doesn't get easier. You don't move on. You move forward.
People reach it at different stages because, like, right now, I'm so proud of you for being able to talk about this, because I'm almost 4 years out, and this is the first time that I've ever wanted to say anything.
Yeah.
And I realize that other people need help, and a lot of times it's real easy for you to think, I'm the only person this has ever happened to.
Yeah.
And I felt that way a lot. And so once this happened with you, I was like, we've got to say something to other people, because you just don't think you're going to be 40 and a widow.
No.
So I'm amazed by you that you're able to do this right now. And I will say that as far out as I am and the stuff we've started talking about, it's uncomfortable still. So I don't know how to tell people, when is this going to get better? Because just starting to talk about this again, I'll be honest, when I drive home, I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah, because you got to get in all the feels again. I feel all the first day things and like that panic. It's panic. I'm gonna tell when someone it's panic because you're like, I have to get everything done. Now you don't have to get everything done in the first 6 months. You can take a breath, but it's panic. It was panic, and I'm still in that mode. But I just always have had like a loud voice. I'm losing it more as I talk more, but and I've always been very outspoken.
Yeah.
I'm not. If you put me in a room with 500 people, I got no problem screaming.
Yeah.
This is an uncomfortable topic. It's feelings, which I don't do well. I don't do feelings well. I don't do that's not who I am. But I feel like if somebody can see someone like me who is so flawed and broken and I'm not this well put together, get up here and do it. I feel like anybody can do it. I feel like anybody can, because if you saw me that first month or know me, I'm still so broken from this. Like, it has shattered my, future, my vision, my goals. It has changed me. But I'm not going to let it defeat me. And I think that, where, again, the faith comes in. Like this, there is a purpose. And like you said, I do not believe God needed somebody or, it was Mike's time. I believe that there's a divine purpose, and, diamonds are made from, stone and pressure. And so if something beautiful comes out of this, I'm going to be really proud.
Yeah.
And it might not. This might just be for me and you, and I'm okay with that too.
That's enough.
Yeah, I'm good, because I this is hard.
It is
and
hard.
I do cry a lot on my way home, and I try not to do it in front of the girls as much, but it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
It's okay to show emotion, and it's okay to be broken and flawed and hurt and effed up. It's okay, because this is a shitty situation, but you're not alone, and there are other people that can get you through it. And,
And I hope that us doing this together shows people you're an extrovert.
Yeah.
I'm an introvert.
Yes. 100%.
And we're best friends.
Yeah.
And we're going to handle it different than each other. But there's a lot of things that I see you, and I see how you handle things because I know you.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't want anybody to know me. I was like, this is nobody's business. This is my business.
Yeah.
And it's time for me to start sharing
and
what
letting
has
people
happened.
in. I agree with that.
And because I think I need it.
Yeah.
I need for people to see that, this is horrible for me, but I'm doing the best I can.
And that's it. That's all we can do. And it might not be what somebody else would do, but I don't care. And I'm not doing this for views and likes and good job, Amanda. I'm doing it because somebody else. The messages that we get are people that are at month 3, 4, 5, 10, 2 years. I'm still crying every single day. Like, I don't know what to tell you, because I would like to do that some days, but I can't, because I have other people depending on me and other things that Mike and I built that I'm not going to let everything fall just because Mike's not here, because that does him that doesn't glorify or honor him or God or anybody.
Right.
That just
Well, I think Mike and John both chose us because they knew we were capable.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that they liked so much about us, was that we weren't somebody they had to carry.
Yeah.
Not that you don't need to be carried sometimes,
Yeah.
but they didn't have to carry us. And I feel like John has expectations of me.
Agreed.
And when I see him again, I want him to say, "You did so good."
Yeah, I feel like the same. I want that too. Yeah. Well, I was going to say this is the first one I haven't cried in, and then there you go. So now we're gonna have it. Now we have a problem. No, I want that too, and so I will tell you this though. More than that, I want to be proud of myself.
Sure.
And when I stand before God, I want Him to go, "Good job."
Yeah. And I don't think that it's any coincidence that we met. I think it was absolutely divine intervention. I feel like even though there are days where I feel like I don't know how to do this, God is not going to let me go through this without preparing me or providing me the people that need to help me.
Yep.
And so I think that's both of our hopes, is that we can be that person for somebody else.
Yeah. And I think that we are, the thing that we are like is we're both kind of like givers, and we both like to help people. Like we both are in, healthcare. You gotta want to help people. So that's part of why we are doing this. This one, started off with kind of finance and veered more towards, emotional health. But I would tell everyone, the questions are really good that you guys are bringing us. And sometimes I can't respond to the messages, or she can't respond. But we're going to keep diving down some of these. We're going to talk about kids, and we're going to talk about, dating and moving on at some point. Because that's real life. I mean, like, God didn't want you to be alone, and nobody wants to be alone. So there's a whole bunch of other things we're going to talk about. I think have one more episode where it'll be us, and then we have, I think our first guest is an attorney that we have coming on that does wills and estates. So she's going to be able to talk all about like what you exactly need to do. But that was today's episode, and I think that was good. And you guys keep the questions coming in. And again, it's Widowhood. 0 stars, completely sucks. Would not recommend. I'm Amanda.
I'm Kendra. Thanks for hanging out with us.